My mother looked me dead in the eye and said, "Your daughter isn't invited. She's too wild, and she'll ruin the photos." My own mother, banning her 5-year-old granddaughter from a family milestone birthday just because she didn't fit her idea of a picture-perfect family. My lawyer urged me to cause a scene and cut them off right then, but I decided to play along. Everyone thought I was being a weak, pushover daughter. But at the grand party, when my mother stepped up to the microphone to deliver her flawless speech, I handed the DJ a special USB drive. The room went silent. My mother turned ghost white, and within 5 minutes, her multi-million-dollar perfect image collapsed forever. Follow my story until the end and comment the city you're watching from so I can see how far my story has reached. My name is Clara, I'm 32 years old, and for as long as I can remember, my life has been measured against a standard I was never meant to meet. My mother, Evelyn, is a woman who views her family not as human beings, but as accessories meant to enhance her social standing. Everything in her world must be manicured, controlled, and camera-ready. For 32 years, I tried to play my part. But then came my daughter, Lily. Lily is 5 years old, full of chaotic joy, endless curiosity, and a laugh that fills every empty room. She isn't quiet. She doesn't sit still like a statue, and she certainly doesn't care about designer clothes or social etiquette. To me and my husband, Mark, she is our entire world. To my mother, she was a flaw in the master design. The real trouble started 3 weeks before Evelyn's lavish 60th birthday gala. I was sitting in the parlor of her mansion while my younger sister, Vanessa, the undisputed golden child, sipped tea beside her. Evelyn set her fine china cup down with a sharp, calculated click, looked me dead in the eye, and dropped the bombshell. "Clara," she said, her voice dripping with ice, "we need to discuss the guest list. Your daughter isn't invited. Lily is simply too wild, and she'll ruin the high-end portraits we've scheduled with the press. It's an exclusive event, and frankly, her energy just doesn't fit the brand." I sat frozen, listening as my own mother erased my 5-year-old child simply because she didn't fit into a picture frame. For a second, the room felt devoid of air. I looked over at Vanessa, expecting even a flicker of sisterly solidarity, but she merely smirked, casually adjusting her diamond bracelet. "Mom's right, Clara," Vanessa added, her voice dripping with synthetic concern. "You know how Lily gets. She's so loud. My little Sophia knows how to sit quietly for photos, but Lily just runs around like she has no discipline. This is Mom's big night. We can't have your daughter causing a scene in front of the city's elite." "She's 5 years old," I said, my voice shaking as I gripped the edge of the mahogany table. "She isn't wild, she's a child. You're asking me to leave my daughter at home while the rest of the family celebrates." Evelyn leaned forward, her eyes narrowing into cold slits. "I'm not asking, Clara. I'm telling you. You either show up alone, smiling and supportive, or don't bother coming at all. And remember, if you choose to make a fuss about this, I will personally ensure you are cut out of the family trust entirely. You won't see a single cent." The threat hung heavy in the air. For years, Evelyn had used the family trust like a leash to keep us compliant. But as I watched her take another slow sip of tea, I caught a sudden flick of anxiety in her eyes when her phone buzzed with an urgent notification from her accountant. She silenced it instantly, her knuckles turning white around the screen. Evelyn was threatening to cut me off, yet she looked terrified. Something wasn't adding up. The next afternoon, I returned to my mother's house under the pretense of retrieving a box of my late father's old sketchbooks from his former study. Evelyn and Vanessa were out finalizing the catering arrangements for the gala, leaving the house dead quiet. Walking into Dad's study felt like stepping back in time. The smell of old leather, cedar, and cedarwood pipe tobacco still lingered in the air. Dad had passed away 2 years ago, and ever since, Evelyn had kept his study locked up tight. But today, the key sat right where Dad always hid it, tucked behind a mahogany bookend on the top shelf. I stepped inside, my heart hammering against my ribs, driven by the strange financial anxiety I had glimpsed in Evelyn's eyes the day before. I began sifting through his old desk drawers, searching through yellowed receipts and family files. That was when I found it, a false bottom in the bottom drawer, concealing a dark green binder stamped Lily's trust fund. My breath caught in my throat as I opened it. Attached to the front page was a handwritten letter from my father, dated just weeks before he died. He had set aside $3 million strictly for Lily's future education and medical care, appointing Evelyn as the sole trustee until Lily turned 18. But as I flipped through the recent bank statements attached behind the letter, my shock turned into white-hot rage. Over the past 18 months, over $800,000 had been systematically drained from Lily's account. Wire transfers signed by Evelyn were funneled directly into catering companies, designer boutiques, and Vanessa's personal accounts. They weren't just excluding my daughter from the family. They were using her stolen inheritance to fund the very party she was banned from attending. My hands shook as I photocopied every single statement, wire receipt, and letter from my father's green binder. Within 2 hours, I was sitting in the high-rise office of Arthur Vance, a senior estate attorney who had been a trusted friend of my father. Arthur reviewed the documents, his expression darkening with every turn of the page. "Clara, this is blatant embezzlement," he said, setting his glasses on the desk. "Evelyn and Vanessa have committed fiduciary fraud on a massive scale. I can file an emergency injunction right now. We can freeze the remaining funds, halt the party, and have a process server hand her the papers on her doorstep tomorrow morning." I stared out the window at the skyline, feeling the initial wave of shock morphing into something far colder, far more deliberate. If I stopped the party now, Evelyn would twist the narrative. She would paint me as the jealous, bitter daughter who ruined her mother's 60th birthday out of spite. The elite social circle would pity her, and she would slither out of the public consequences. "No," I told Arthur quietly. "Don't file the injunction yet. Let her spend every last cent on this gala. Let her invite the press, the city elite, and every influential person she has ever tried to impress." Over the next 2 weeks, I worked tirelessly in silence. Arthur helped me compile a complete forensic audit, linking every luxury dress purchase, every flower arrangement, and every wire transfer directly to Lily's drained trust account. I recorded phone calls of Vanessa bragging about her new diamond necklace, funded directly by Mom's special account. The trap was fully built. All I needed to do was set it off. The night of the gala arrived, and the Grand Regency Ballroom was transformed into a spectacle of obscene wealth. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm, golden glow over hundreds of high society guests, local reporters, and city politicians. Soft violin music floated through the air, drowned out only by the quiet clinking of champagne flutes and artificial laughter. I arrived precisely at 8 o'clock, walking through the heavy glass doors alone. I wore a tailored black evening gown, simple, elegant, and entirely devoid of the flashy ostentation my mother favored. As I passed through the grand foyer, I saw the massive ice sculptures and extravagant flower walls, each arrangement costing thousands of dollars that rightfully belonged to my daughter's future. My mother, Evelyn, stood near the center of the ballroom in an emerald green silk dress, holding court like a monarch. Vanessa stood beside her, showing off her diamond necklace to a group of influential city donors. When Evelyn spotted me approaching, her lips tightened for a fraction of a second before expanding into a flawless, practiced smile for the nearby photographers. "Clara, dear," Evelyn purred softly, stepping forward so only I could hear her. "I'm so glad you decided to be sensible and leave your little wild child at home. See how elegant everything is when things are properly controlled." "It's certainly an unforgettable evening, Mother," I replied smoothly, offering a polite smile. At precisely 9 o'clock, the master of ceremonies stepped up to the main microphone, announcing that the birthday tribute video was about to begin. Evelyn beamed with pride, stepping up toward the stage to bask in the spotlight of what she believed was her ultimate triumph. She had no idea I had already handed the media team a small, black USB drive. The lights dimmed, and the massive high-definition projector screens surrounding the ballroom hummed to life. Evelyn stood at the front of the stage, glowing under the spotlight as she held her glass high, expecting a nostalgic montage of her polished life. Instead, the speakers crackled, and a crisp, clear voice echoed across the room. It wasn't soft ambient music. It was a recorded phone call between Evelyn and Vanessa. "Don't worry about the caterers, Vanessa." Evelyn's voice boomed through the ballroom. "I'll just move another 50 grand out of Lily's trust account. Clara is too stupid to ever check her father's old binder anyway." Gasps rippled through the crowd like a shockwave. Evelyn's face drained of all color, the glass in her hand trembling violently. She whipped her head toward the AV booth, screaming for them to shut it off, but Arthur Vance's legal team was already standing right beside the technician. The audio cut out, replaced by massive high-resolution scans of official court documents filling the screens. Forensic audit ledgers, bank transfer receipts, and police complaint filings lined up side by side. On the left side was every lavish invoice for the party: the ice sculptures, Vanessa's diamonds, the silk dress. On the right side were the corresponding withdrawals directly from my 5-year-old daughter's trust fund, complete with Evelyn's forged signatures. Reporters immediately raised their cameras, flashes strobing frantically against the stage. Guests leaned in, whispering in horrified shock as they read the explicit evidence of child trust fund theft broadcast for the entire city to see. Vanessa buried her face in her hands, trying to duck out through the side doors, but the crowd blocked her way. Evelyn dropped her glass. It shattered against the polished marble floor, mirroring the complete destruction of her precious reputation. I stepped onto the stage, walking right past my stunned mother. Taking the microphone from the podium, I looked out over the quiet, frozen room. "Tonight was supposed to be a celebration of family," I said, my voice echoing clear and firm. "Instead, it stands as proof of what greed looks like. Every cent used to pay for this party was stolen from a 5-year-old child's trust fund. Tomorrow morning, full criminal charges for grand larceny and fiduciary fraud will be officially filed." I set the microphone down, turned on my heel, and walked out of the ballroom, leaving the chaos behind. The aftermath was swift and uncompromising. Within 6 months, both Evelyn and Vanessa were forced to liquidate their personal assets, including the family mansion, to repay every single dollar taken from Lily's trust, along with heavy legal penalties. Their high society friends abandoned them instantly, appalled by the scandal. Vanessa filed for bankruptcy, while Evelyn moved into a small, rented apartment, completely stripped of her influence and wealth. As for my family, Mark, Lily, and I used a fraction of the secured inheritance to purchase a beautiful home near the coast. Watching Lily run freely across the grass, laughing without a care in the world, I knew I had made the right choice. She was never too wild. She was just too genuine for a family built on lies. What would you have done if you were in my shoes? Would you have exposed them publicly or settled it quietly? Comment below and let me know your thoughts.